Hey, it's me again. Same outfit, same day. Well, because I didn't want the other video. I don't know how long it was. I'm using Zoom to record. So I don't know how long that video was, but yeah. I just felt it was going to be too long, and I just wanted people to get an intro to what this vlog is about. I really appreciate vlogs on YouTube that do that. So I go in and I'm like, oh, this is what it's about. So that even when I come across the latest video, I can always go back and know, okay, this is why they started it. So hope you enjoyed that. Apologies if the quality is not great. In time, and I can afford to buy proper equipment and set up stuff, edit it, etc. Well, but anyway, so this video is about the 12 books that I want to finish. So as I mentioned in my first video, I have read 38 books. I need to finish 50 by the end of December this year. It is the 29th of November today, so I have 33 days left. But including today, I haven't read. Well, I read 2 books this morning. At some point in time, I'm going to try start reading a different book. Actually, I'll show you which book I'm going to start reading today. All right, so the 12 books that I read, it's no particular order. I will mention which books I'm going to start reading today and tomorrow, because I know those are which one I want to be finished by next week. Those 3 I know. The rest are in between. So this book is Beast Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi. So I mentioned in my intro that, I've recorded so many videos, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I've read a lot of Nigerian American books, and I'll talk about all of them later. So I came across Tochi somehow. I don't know how I came across him. Somewhere in the rabbit hole of social media. And I follow him on Instagram. And I happened upon a book launch of a different book that I'm going to talk about later. And one of the ladies at this book launch was like, oh, this book looks like a fantasy African. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, it's this guy I follow on Instagram. I had been thinking I needed to buy this book, but it was going to be in my next year to buy a book. And I bought it then at a time when I really couldn't afford to, but I bought it anyway. That story of my life. Majority of the books here, I have not read. But as I get to 50 every year, they will start getting read. Anyway, so I'm not really sure what this book is about. I only know it's a fantasy. It's based in Nigeria or Eastern Africa. I think there might be some dragons in it. I'm always in for dragons. I love dragons. And the book that I'm writing is the current book that I want to publish by June next year is a fantasy novel, which is it's based in the world, but it starts off in Africa, or whatever I call it. I don't call it Africa, I've got a different, but you'll figure out that it's influenced by Africans. And then it ends up on this island where stuff happens on this island. And there's a lot of African mythology, but there's also mythology from all over the world. It's a little bit of a different take from me on that, but I'm trying to be very deliberate in that the books that I read should inspire how I write, should help me write better. And so this year I've read a lot of fictional fantasy books, as well as fictional fantasy books written by Africans that take in mythology. And so that's why I'm really excited to read Beast Made of Night. The next book, another book that I want to read this year, or by the end of this year, is We Need New Names, which is, I didn't realize, was shortlisted for Man Booker Prize. I really enjoyed Man Booker Prizes. They were such unique and interesting books that normally I would never read them, but I hear about them through book clubs. I haven't been part of a book club in a long time. Probably I should do that next year. But yeah, anyways. So this is a book I bought in 2015, a very long time ago. I started reading it because I was procrastinating finishing off my thesis. And then my sister picked it up. And she doesn't really, well, I have 5 sisters, but one of my sisters who doesn't really like reading picked it up. And she started reading it. And so I thought, I'm not going to jinx it. I'm not going to ask for it back. But I see, because this is her bookmark, but she didn't get past page 48. So it's a book that I want to read because it's just been lying there. And I've been saying I need to read it. And I think somebody made a comment about it the other day. And so I can't really contribute to conversations if I haven't read it. So it's an African woman writing a fiction in Africa. And I think that's inspirational towards what I'm trying to achieve. So there's another book that I'm currently reading. Listening to, sorry. The producer told me he slipped out. Unfortunately, when you open up the books, it just automatically plays. So it's Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. I have read so many of her books this year. I think I've read this is the 5th book. I've read 4 others, so the Binti series. And I just have to say this about her, and I'll mention her again later because that's one of the other books I have to finish, is she's Nigerian American as well. And even though this book is based in Nigerian Lagos and it's about what happens when aliens come to Lagos and just the human psyche of how we deal with these foreign alien things, about the different types of personalities and people you find in Lagos, from the uber religious to there's prostitutes, there's a married couple, there's mysticism in it. I think it's just such a beautiful description of, sorry, something popped up in front of me, problems with cameras, of Lagos, which I'm dying to go visit at. I've read a lot of Chimamanda Adichie Ngozi in the past. And while she talks about more contemporary life in Nigeria, which has made me want to go to Nigeria, she's a sci-fi writer. She tends to take it to the next level. She has a contemporary life rather than there's something else linked to it, which reminds me a little bit of Haruki Murakami, who I'll talk about a little bit later. So I'm 70% through this book. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying this in particular because it's narrated by 2 actors who really bring the accents. Like, there's different types of Nigerian accents, male and female voices. There are British accents, there are different types of American accents. I'm loving it. So I definitely would recommend that. I'm 70% through, so I'm hoping. The problem with me is I listen to books when I'm in the car, and I haven't really been in the car this week, so that's why I haven't finished it. So I've got 70% to go. I'm going to an event tonight, so maybe I'll get to 80% by tonight. I'll try to drive around tomorrow. And maybe tonight, if I'm feeling like not enjoying the book that I'm about to start, I will listen to it to get it finished. I want to finish it by the end of November, so that I get to, I think I'm on 30, sorry, just want to check if I'm on 30, 38 or 39 books. So the book I was supposed to start today is The Invested Investor. So one of the things that I am doing now is I'm starting an angel investment fund with some friends of mine. I've never invested before, so I'm trying to get as much knowledge about it. So even though a lot of the books that I read this year have been fiction and fantasy and African authors, I tend to also read a lot of bios, and I also read a lot of business type books in the past. But this year I've incorporated a lot more fiction. But I do still enjoy reading more businessy nonfiction books. And so that's what The Invested Investor is about. So it's written by a guy named Peter Cowley. He is an angel investor in the UK and the head of the EBAN, which I think is European Business Angel Network. I stand to be corrected. And he was at this event that I was at, the summit that I was at, about early stage investments or angel investing in Africa. And that's in essence what this book is about. It's about his experience as being an investor. I think he was an entrepreneur in his past as well. So he writes it from the perspective of an investor, but he also writes from the perspective that his audience is people who want to be investors, angel investors, early stage, as well as people who are looking for investments, so entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited to read this because I think it'll be beneficial for what we're about to start in terms of Dazzle Angels. Then, this I showed you earlier in the previous video. It's a graphic novel, Persepolis, which was actually recommended by Amory, who's the person who inspired me to do my own vlog and vlog this journey. I also have to shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk, who said, started following him in 2016, and he used to say, if you want to create content, create stuff about what you're doing. And what I'm doing right now, my whole journey, I'm trying to create some content around that. So shout out to him as well. So the reason I bought this book, it was very expensive, 543 Rand. So I actually went into Book Lounge in Cape Town 3 weeks ago, and I bought this book. I was stuck. My sister was still at work, and her nanny had taken her daughter out for a walk. So I got there stuck, and I decided, let me go to the Book Lounge across the road. So I went there and to look for this book, actually. And I ended up buying, as I mentioned, The Beast of Nations, and the next book I'll show you, because it happened to be, I stumbled on a book launch. So why I thought I wanted to read this book was, Amory said she really enjoyed it. So I'm keen on that. But also I'm trying to explore different ways of storytelling. And besides writing, so I've got like 10 book ideas in my head. I've written a lot of them down, so I maybe forget them, but I'm constantly coming up with new stories I want to write. And I'm not sure if I want to write it as a book, if I want to write it as a story for like a TV series or a play or a movie. And I've started wondering if I shouldn't start looking at graphic novels. I love graphic novels because you get to see images to accentuate a story that moves the story along, the narrative along. And then you have to be so, the timing and the words that you use and the phrasing around the dialogue has to be so well thought out and planned and written that it enhances the images. So that's why Persepolis is the complete Persepolis is a book that I really want to read. I honestly have no idea what it's about. Written by Marjan Satari. I think she might be from Iran. I think that's where this book is based, but I'm really excited. Amory just gave such great reviews about it, raving reviews, and I'm really excited about it. It won the 2007 Cannes Film Festival, so it's been turned into a major motion picture. So when I'm done, so this is what I'm going to read tomorrow. I'm babysitting my niece and nephew. I feel weird saying babysitting because they're like 12 and 10 years old, but I'm going to be staying over at their place, and whilst they might be busy playing Fortnite, because that's what they're currently obsessed with, or whatever they might be doing, I can read this, but I think it's enough. What I enjoy about graphic novels, you can stop them and I can give them the attention that they might need without needing to say, wait, can I finish this whole paragraph or this chapter because it's just getting so good. So that's what I'm going to read tomorrow night. All right, so this is the book that I happened to stumble upon, the book launch. It's published like a pro. And it felt like kismet because I've been thinking about how am I going to publish this book. The ideal that everyone wants is to have someone come to you and say, here's a book advance, and then you don't have to work, you just have to spend 2 years working on your book. And then they pay for editing. They have an editor who comes into their whole marketing division. The thing that you might have to do is set up your social media page to really push the numbers. And the main reason you want to push numbers is when they give you an advance. So let's say they give you 500,000 rands as an advance, 1 million rands as an advance. It's not mahala, it's not for free. You have to then make sure that you sell enough books to basically pay back that 1 million rands, 500,000 rands. And then if you yourself want to make money as a writer, you have to sell more of them. So they might tell you in order for you to get to 1 million, if your book is priced at 100 let's make it 200 rands. Oh, now I have to get my maths going. All right, 20,000 books. So if I sell 10,000 books, I'm going to get back the 1 million. If I sell 20,000 books, we're going to make 2 million rands. But of that 1 million rands, I'm only going to get 300,000 because the publishing company is going to say, we've spent on the marketing, the editors, we gave you an advance, there's all these things, the design of the book, etc. We did all of that. So we're going to take majority. When you independent publish or self-publish, so the term self-published is very negative connotation with it because there's a lot of people who are self-published who didn't get editors. The book covers are really bad. They cut corners. So at this book launch, I only got to the tail end of it, but what this lady says is they're an independent publisher. So the people who wrote this is Vanessa Wilson and Georgina Hatch. They own an independent publishing house. Can't remember the name of it, but it's probably the people who published this. Quick Fox, yeah, it is Quick Fox Publishing. And so what they say is that they call it independent publishing because you go to an independent publisher. You're not going to print out these things and staple them together and go put it in exclusive books. What you're going to do is you're going to write this book as any other writer would do, but you might be writing as a side hustle while you make money, right? Then you're going to find someone to edit it and you're going to pay that person. So you have to put the effort to finding the right person to edit it, the right match who understands you and what you want to portray, and you're going to pay that person. You're going to have to design the cover of this book. You're going to pay a designer to design it right, but not just the cover of the book, but also the inside. You're probably also going to have to pay to get your ISBN and all these things, your marketing going. Then when you go to the independent publisher, all they do is you say to them, this is how I want to publish, this is how many I want published. You're going to pay them. Then you're going to have to find your way to get into exclusive books, into book lounge. Book lounge releases, it's they tend to put a lot of independently published books in there, so it's relatively easy to get it onto Amazon. Also, it's also relatively easy to get it on there. But and then they take 30% of whatever you charge. And I guess also that's the thing. Then you determine how much you want to sell. If I sell this for 200 rands, I am going to get the full 200 rands minus the costs I've incurred. So it's really, yeah. So that's what independent publishing is. And in this book, they really go into it quite a bit. They talk about the differences between the two. They also talk about things like how you get your manuscript ready for publishing, how do you get an ISBN in your name in South Africa, so if you're South African, the different types of publishing you get, the budgeting, how you can keep your budget quite low without, impacting the quality, and then how you get distribution going. So this book, I have to read it because I want to start my publishing journey. I want to be published by June next year. And so come January 2019, I want to be prepared to actually say, this is the plan. This is when I have to finish my first draft by. This is when I have to finish my second draft by. This is when I have to have found the right editor by and start sending them stuff and negotiating prices, how much money, and, start budgeting and all those things. And I think this is going to help me with that. So that's why I want to finish that book. It was a long review. So I'm back to Nettie. So as I mentioned, because I'm writing a fantasy novel with mythology and it's got a lot of African influence in it. The protagonist is African. There are a couple of other main characters from around the world, but the main protagonist is African. I've been reading a lot of authors and I really enjoy Nettie's voice. Beyond just the fact that she talks about Nigeria. So I mentioned Lagos. She talks quite a bit about Nigeria there. In Binti, she incorporates Namibia. Like the Himba people get incorporated there, and there's also some space. And it's based in Africa. Lagos is in Africa for Lagoon. And then I read the Binti series, it's 3, then also Who Fears Death. So the Binti series I read on my Kindle. Who Fears Death I listened to on Audible. Who Fears Death is, I think it's inspired by the people of Sudan and potentially even Mauritania. I read a book recently, Starless, Moonless Night, or Moonless, Starless Night by Alexis Okeowo. I think I mispronounced her surname. Shout out to Alexis, which talks about a lot of different people on the African continent. But Mauritania, when I read the stuff about Mauritania, it really made me think of Who Fears Death, which is actually turning into a series that is being produced by, the Game of Thrones guy, George R. Martin. So George R. Martin. I don't know how many R's there are there. Anyway, so I really enjoy her writing, and so this is going to be this. Once I finish Lagoon and I start this, will be the 6th book. I don't know much about it except look at the back. It says it's based in Manhattan, or there's something about Manhattan. So I think that's very different because all the other books have been in and around Africa, even if they go into space, right? And it's all sci-fi, right? So I don't know what this is about. I'm really excited. I bought it last year, December, and I bought it because I walked in and exclusive books, and I was so surprised to see African American or African fiction. You always see like African non-fiction, or if it is fiction, it's still kind of linked to apartheid or colonization or stuff now. But sci-fi and fantasy, so I bought it without even knowing what it was about. I'm really excited to finish that. I also really enjoy her voice, and I think she's been very helpful in my writing process. So this book is by Samantha Irby, called We Are Never Meeting in Real Life. It's a bunch of essays that she's written, kind of like a memoir diary-esque type book. I bought this last year after I found her on the social media space. Again, like kind of rabbit hole. I can't remember how I ended up. I ended up in her book, Bitches Need to Read. Not read. it might be Bitch Need to Read or Bitch Need to Write, one of the two. And I found it to be a very inspirational group. I'm not very active on it, but one of the things they kept going on was about this book. So it came out last year, May. I bought it in July and I got it in August. I got it delivered to my friend in America and she came home end of August and I got it. And I read only up to page 39 and yet there's only 274 pages. So I really should have finished this book last year. But I'm going to finish it this December. It's really funny, like, because I finished books so quickly in October and November, like I'm finishing books that are 300 pages in a day or two. Last year I was like, oh, 300 pages. Now I'm like, only 300. So I want to finish this book because I really enjoyed it and I've been meaning to finish it. It was meant to be finished last year. Even the beginning of this year, I suppose I haven't touched it. So even though I got to page 39, I might, depending on how I feel, I might start it up again from the beginning and just finish it because it is only 272 pages. Another book I've been dying to finish is by Haruki Murakami, Norwegian Wood. I first heard about him only in 2015 when a good friend of mine, Sonia Max, Sonia, who's doing the Bua podcast with me, kept going on about this Haruki Murakami, her favorite guy, and Norwegian Wood is her favorite of all the books that he's written. He's written a lot of books. So I finished his book, What I Write About When I Write About Running, earlier this year. It was an Audible. It is his book about writing, but he writes about running. And I also listened to, if you are someone who is writing, I'm sure at some point someone told you, you have to listen to or read Stephen King's On Writing, which I listened to as well earlier this year. I really enjoyed that book. And it was so fascinating to hear that he only started writing at, I think he was 30 or 31 years old. He quit his job. He was a barman and he just started writing. But he was married. So I think maybe I should get married. And then my husband can have a day job and pay for the bills while I write until we make enough money that I can pay him back and I can continue to write. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I chose this one because Sonia, this is her favorite book. I listened to 1Q84 last year, an absolute production. If you're going to read the book, that's what you want to do, listen to it as well. Such a brilliant production of so descriptive, and also he's just a really strange writer. And that it seems like it's contemporary life when you read the books. So I haven't really read this. I don't really know what Norwegian Wood's about. But when I think of 1Q84, and I also have started Kafka on the Shore, which I haven't finished. So that's my plan B. If I don't finish one of these books, Kafka on the Shore is like book 13, because I'd started it. It's like, it feels like it's contemporary life. And then there's some weird mysticism that comes in. It's kind of a way that you think it's like an alternate universe. And so we actually had a discussion the other day, Sonia and I, where I was talking about Paulo Coelho and how I love him. He's one of my favorite authors. I have like a whole row of his books here, but I don't think I've read a lot of them. And she was just saying that her problem with him is, even though the setting changes and the characters change, it's still the same kind of message, still moral to the story, still same plot. And whereas with Murakami, it's kind of just, a lot of stuff is very left field. The only thing that you might see as common is apparently the cats. I didn't see cats in 1Q84, but there were cats in Kafka on the Shore, and we'll see in Norwegian Wood. So, and there weren't any cats in What I Write About When I Write About Running. So we'll see. I'm excited for that one. Then Chintu, this is by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. I am ethnically Ugandan. So this book is twofold. So I'm reading it for my podcast, Bua, that I'm starting as inspiration. So I'm going to be crafting stories from influenced by my great, I don't know how many greats, grandfather, and from the books that he wrote. But a lot of them is written in Lugandan. I don't speak Lugandan. I know. I'm a bad African. I'm a very westernized African. I speak only English. But my challenge for next year as well, maybe I'll also do a vlog about that, is me trying, like I followed this Fluent in 3 months so many times, and I'm not fluent in any other language but English yet. But I'm trying to get fluent in one language next year, one other language next year. Be it isiXhosa, be it Luganda, be it Kiswahili, Korean, what other language have I attempted? French, something has to give next year. Right. Anyway, so Chintu is in English. It's written by a lady, a Ugandan lady, who I assume is Baganda because Chintu is a Baganda guy. And it's a book that goes over different decades of related people. It starts off with Chintu Chida, who is the main guy, and he has a whole bunch of kids. And he does something. I'm not sure what. I haven't really read much of this book yet. Because I got this book last year, not this physical one, but a book like this last year from my cousin. Shout out to my cousin, Namazi. We did a book swap in December last year. And I started reading it. And then my mom came around and I gave it to her in the hopes that she would finish it and leave it. And she took it with her back to Uganda. So it came back from Uganda to South Africa, went back to Uganda. And I didn't think you could find it in South Africa, but I found it in South Africa, so I bought it. And my dad is currently reading it. So it's going to be like a family book. But my mom really enjoyed it because she said, even though she's a Ugandan, was born and raised in Uganda, pure Muganda, she learned a lot about the history of the Baganda through this. So I'm really excited to read it. So inspiration for Bua and how I craft stories that we will be bringing through. But also, it just seems like it's a really interesting read, interesting thing to see Uganda from a different perspective. So the general gist of this book is Chintu Chida is a Ugandan man who's a chief, and it starts off with him on a journey. This is how far I've gotten so far, to the capital of the Baganda. There's a new king about to be crowned. There's a new king apparently every couple of months. So it's just a normal journey he goes on to. And he does something on this journey, I assume, that causes his bloodline to be cursed. And then throughout they start telling the different people in his bloodline and the trials and tribulations that they go through because of this curse. Because the book in itself starts off in modern day Uganda, in Kampala, where one of his descendants dies really unnecessarily so, and it is hinted at that it's linked to this curse, linked to the Chintus. I'm really excited to read that book and finish that in December. Also because my family is going to be down for December. My sister's given birth, my dad's coming down, my mom's here. All of my sisters will be here. My other sister from Bermuda is coming through. So my two sisters in Cape Town, I don't know if they'll come up to Joburg for Cape Town, for Christmas. But having your family around, I think that's a nice book to read, to kind of also like around the Christmas dinner table to say, oh, I've learned this about our people. Another book that I have to read. Now, this is the other book that I want to read by the end of the first week of December. It's written by my friend Mpush. Shout out to Mpush, Mputumi Ntabeni. It's a picture of him. I'm very ashamed because this book is only 309 pages, including the acknowledgements. And I have only read, actually, I don't know. I lost where I've read, so I have to start from the beginning again. So I haven't finished it, and I should have, because I promised him I was going to read it. I bought it so long ago. He even wrote in it. I went to the book launch, and there's an Ubuntu book festival that's happening next weekend, and he's going to be one of the panelists at he's going to talk about something at one of the events. So I want to go there having finished this book, having it fresh in my mind so I can ask pertinent questions or refer to it. When you said, or when this happened. So I have to finish this before the 7th of December. So in essence, what this book is about a young man, Pila. I think he's going to bury his father. So he lives in Cape Town, and he takes this journey back to the Eastern Cape to go and bury his father, who's just recently passed away. And on this journey, he ends up in a tent, so the Broken River tent, and ends up, I don't know if he takes some herbs or what happens, but he ends up meeting Makoma, who is a great warrior chief. It was central to the Xhosa resistance when the British first came to South Africa in the early 19th century. So it's a fictional book that has history incorporated in it. So this is also going to be great for creating stories for our podcast, Bua. So I'm really inspired to read this, but also I really enjoy Push. He's a great guy. I love his comments on Facebook. And hi. I'm so sorry. So I'm using Zoom, and I think my Wi-Fi kind of cut off. So Anyway, so I went to the book launch, and the way people were talking about that book, I'm really excited to get into it. So, and I know, Push, I know you said you wanted me to create a podcast about Xhosa culture. I'm doing one about African history, culture stuff. So we can incorporate some of your stuff in it. And then book 12. I'm in awe about this book. It's a book I bought in April. So I do Toastmasters. It's another way for me to improve on my communicating skill, my storytelling. And I was about to write a speech. And I think I wanted to write about storytelling, and I happened to be at the airport in Cape Town, and I try to avoid bookshops. Go in there, buy books. This is what this is about, right? So I saw this, I bought it. But yeah, I don't know if I'll finish it. But anyway, so it's the Storyteller Secret, and it's written by Carmine Gallo, who is the founder of the TED Talk series. And he also wrote Talk Like TED, which is a book I listened to, I think 2-3 years ago. So Talk Like TED was about the skills and tips about how you can actually talk like the TED speakers do. It's absolutely phenomenal how they get them to do that. Whereas this one is, he takes everyday people, I mean, not say everyday people, because these are people who have succeeded in whatever field, be it Oprah in the media space, Malala Yousafzai, I think he even talks about Elon Musk. Yeah, no, not think. I remember reading a little bit about Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, and yeah. And then some other successful entrepreneurs that I can't remember their names, so they're not really famous. But so he takes their success stories, so he says there are 50 icons, and he breaks down how, so he talks about them and why they're successful, and he breaks down the stories that they tell and the tools that they use to really get them to be successful in their own field, industry, selling products, selling ideas, moving people, etc. So it's something I wanted to read to see for myself in terms of how I structure my stories in my books that I want to write, and the movies and series that I want to write, the podcasts that I want to write, but also in terms of how I use social media to really get things, to get the traction going for all of this content. And then also for this angel investment fund, that's another aspect that perhaps this could be helpful. So this is a book I've put on, but I'm going to put it as an it's because I've gotten to page 70 of 232, and the last couple is just it's a toolkit, not too much. So page 70 of 232. 230 is not that much that I've put it as one of the 12, but I'll get 2 credits by the end of this month in terms of Audible, so I might get myself 2 more. I really enjoyed Nora Ephraim's books. There's a couple more I might get. I also have Kafka on the Shore is another book that I'm considering. I don't know where the book is I really want to show you, but I've got these little mini pocket books by, I always want to say Jacana. I don't know if it's Jacana. Every time I want to say Jacana, it's probably Jacana. But anyway, so they've got these of African leaders. And I'd started I'd started Thomas Sankara, but I've never finished. So they're really small, they're really bite-sized. I don't actually know why I have not finished them. So it goes up to page 153, but these are like even notes. So let me actually go to 147. 147, the writing's not too small. So these 2, so this is Patrice Lumumba, who was the first president of Independent Democratic Republic of Congo. I think at that stage it was still called Congo. Or maybe it was called DRC, I can't remember. And then Steve Biko. I wrote What I Like, Steve Biko. And then I also have Thomas Sankara. So those 3 plus Kafka on the Shore are the books that I'm going to see how I go. So those are the 12 books that I'm hoping to finish by the end of 2019. And so my next video is really going to be in January, where I'm going to do a review. I'm going to say, yeah, I finished my 50 books. And actually, no, you know what I'm going to do? On the 31st of December, I'm going to go, yeah, I finished my 50 books, and I'm going to show all 50 of the books. I'm not going to do long, this is what I liked about it, none of that. I'm just going to say, this is the first book I read, second up until 50. Then, in January, I'm going to do a video about my top 10 books of 2018 and my bottom 5 and why. And then I'm going to do another video where I say, what's my last video? Oh, these are the 12 books that I'm going to read in the first quarter of 2019. So if you like this, I know it was quite long-winded and not as well packaged as I like to make things, but if you do enjoy this, please stay tuned for my next video. Bye.